Hi, welcome to Discussions of Music, Healing, and Consciousness with your hosts, Chris Noble and Bill Protzmann. In today's episode, we're talking all about psychedelics with music. What happens when you pair a psychedelic experience, whether it's with psilocybin mushrooms, MDMA, LSD, etc., with particular music. Amazing things can happen when this is done intentionally and sometimes also just by pure accident. We'll also explore how any form of creativity creates a euphoric or high experience, and we're going to dive into all the reasons why and lots of examples. We'll be talking about that and lots more today, as always, in our open conversations here on Discussions of Music, Healing, and Consciousness. I've really been finding it interesting because I love psychedelics and I love the plant medicines that do alter your state of consciousness, but at the same time, I got to give so much credit to music as its own drug in a way. And it's one that I've been able to partake in since I was a very young child.
Yeah, right. Yeah, me too.
And it's luckily approved by the FDA and whatnot.
Wait a minute. Should we
not
be doing
approved?
this podcast? Because if we say this stuff, they're liable to schedule music.
Oh, God. Well, if the FDA is listening, peace be upon you, and please do not do anything to music.
Seriously. But, anything that has which is sort of an interesting question. So is the concern about psychedelics because of the altered state it puts you into, or because the substance is capable of putting you into the altered state? Because people are going to get to that altered state one way or the other.
Exactly.
That's the thing here, right? Because it's healthy. It's really great there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I respect that. But banning the substance, it's like telling, it's like telling the director of the choir that he's practicing music therapy. That doesn't work.
No.
Right. But tell us about your experience, because I think people are going to be interested to know how you got there. Because everybody kind of has an appreciation of what it's like to have a psychedelic experience. If you've had one, I haven't had one with mushrooms, but I've had with MDMA.
Yeah.
And with music. So tell us your story, man. I'm so eager to hear this, because this is really good. This is people, you're going to love this.
Well, thank you for the intro there, Bill. That was great. And because it is interesting. And for those listening, I really do feel that it's both things. Like, we have so many ways in our life that we can get quote unquote high. And I think we look at chemical substances as the easiest way to get there. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's necessary and really, really helpful and great. But I had a wonderful experience on New Year's Eve here in the West Coast of Canada, and a very, very new group of people that I connected with literally on Christmas Day, because I'm new to the city. I'm away from all my friends and family, so I didn't have many plans going on. So I was the guy that got invited to the other existing plans. And
lucky
so
you.
I know, and I'm so grateful, so utterly grateful at the generosity and kindness of the people I've been meeting, and to be welcomed into a home. Literally, no one had met me yet, and they welcomed me in because of my other friend who was friends with one of the hosts and just vouched for me. And so I connected with this group on Christmas Day. They invited me back for a New Year's Eve party, and this group is very, very creative. A lot of musicians, artists, people that work in film, and even if they're not in the arts, they're very creative people, like a couple of engineers, but they love playing music, and they're very, very, very creative, clearly. So long and the short of it is I got invited to this New Year's Eve party, and I got to basically play music with some other musicians, and I haven't been able to jam with other musicians since the beginning of the pandemic. And wow, I mean, Bill, I know you can obviously relate, but it's one thing to play music on your own. It's another to play music with another individual, which is great. But when you have more than two, that's the interesting combination. So you got three or more musicians now, and you're able to create a really incredible sonic landscape. And depending on the instruments involved, we had drums, we had some percussion like a djembe, like a full-on drum kit, really nice bass guitar, some beautiful lead electric guitar, and then keys and some synthesizer, and some random instruments. I also brought my melodica. So we had a lot of instruments being passed around. And we were playing for a little bit, and just being able to connect with other musicians. And what I found, it was speaking the same language. I hadn't been able to be amongst my peers and amongst, other musicians to really just feed off of each other in that communicative way that musicians do. Instead of saying, hey, play this note, you'll just play a note And any intuitive musician will be like, ooh, I know it would sound good with that note. This will sound good. And then they'll put in their little thing. And then you build, and then you build, and then you build. And that building
and just
process.
for the audiences listening to this, that process that Chris just described happens instantaneously.
Yes.
Instantaneously. Like, that's what makes us musicians. We just do that.
Yeah.
For some crazy reason.
For some crazy reason. If we're all synced up somehow in the cosmos and the ether and the what other dimension we're communicating on, and it is instantaneous. And that feeling is a drug. It gets you high. It feels so good because you're also connecting with these people in real time. And these are people I'm meeting for the first time, and yet we're looking over big smiles on our faces. And they hadn't had a lot of piano players in their group for a while, so I got to come in and offer a real new, fresh sound for them that they hadn't really jammed with in a long time. And so they were just loving what I was contributing. I was loving what they were contributing. And it was just this beautiful back and forth. And then as the night progressed, there was also some really talented DJs at this beautiful situation. And one of the DJs came on and just played. We're just in their living room at this point, but they had all the instruments out and little mini dance floor, and the DJ started to play, and the drum kit was still there. So as the DJ sets were playing, some people, we would be hopping on the drum set, playing with the DJ, playing the djembe with it. So we had like live percussion with the DJ, and wow, that sounds so cool to just have like, a real typical dance set that you'd hear at some rave or something. And, but then with live percussion, and then I got to be a part of that live percussion, and for me playing the drum kit was just so much fun. I haven't played drums in forever. And, what a great outlet percussion is in different ways than a softer instrument like piano, even though technically it's a percussion instrument, but it's, wow. So, I mean, it wasn't necessarily like a crazy story. It was purely the emotions and the high. And I could go into the bathroom, look at my eyes in the mirror, and I saw my pupils dilate. And for those listening, a really quick trick when you're on psychedelics, in a sense, to see if you're, to see if you're high, so to speak, is to look at your pupils. And if they're really open and larger and dilated, that typically means you're really high. So when I looked at my eyes, and I was stone cold sober because I had to drive my friend home that night, I was like, was I doing mushrooms or something? Because my pupils are super dilated. I feel so ecstatic. I feel utter joy and bliss that I'd feel in MDMA. I felt like I was on all the drugs all at once, and I was completely sober. And it really reminded me of the power of music, the power of people and connection, and playing with other musicians. That's something I had forgotten a little bit about, what it's like to communicate with someone who speaks the same language as you.
Yeah.
Oh, what a joy. What a joy.
It's so incredible to have that as a group experience, right? I've had some of those experiences, but I realize that they're too precious, and I need a practice to teach myself how to do that, because there are times where I just don't have a piano, right?
Yeah.
And I don't sing, but there are ways of being able to access that same connectedness, I think, is the best word we've got for it so far.
Yeah.
But the psilocybin connectedness they talk about, where everything seems to be reliant and dependent and interrelated to everything else, and you just have this sense of being a part of the giant whole instead of this isolated island of skin and bones. And that sensation, you can't describe the feeling unless you've had it.
Yeah.
And that feeling happens when you make music.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the lane of being able to, I know what happens to people who don't make music that way too. So there's no judgment here. There are people who are they're excellent musicians, probably never felt that, but there are also people who may just be starting an instrument for the very first time and all of a sudden have this epiphany, or whatever word you want to put with it, of just how everything, this djembe that you're playing, right? It's animal skin and wood, and it's like, this is real.
Primal. Yeah.
And it vibrates, and you feel that against your chest as you're playing. It's like, whoa, this is really, I've come home in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And the sound of the drum is the sound of you, and you are the sound of the drum. And other people have said this much better. It's just all there, right?
And I think everyone who wasn't playing music, they were they were loving it. And for me, I'm speaking on behalf of someone who's a musician, getting to play with musicians again for the first time in basically 2 years. And that in of itself is an incredible experience. But for those who weren't participating and they were listening in a way, but that, in a sense they are participating because they're dancing too, or, singing along or whatever. So it was,
It's
I know
contagious.
it was very contagious. It's the best contagious thing you can have.
I haven't had I mean, the band hasn't been together in forever, but one of these days our album will be done. We've all done remotely. It's okay. But I know that feeling of wanting to perform or wanting to collaborate, musically play together in the same room is just, and what you've said is so important about that third person. So doing a duo is cool. It's fine. But there's a reason it takes a piano, bass, and drums, right? There's sort of that's it's necessary. And I have this crazy mathematical idea that every time you add something, you exponentialize the effect. So 2 people have an exponential effect of 2 squared, 4. 3 people have an exponential effect of 8. Right? So it's 2 cubed.
Nice. 2 cubed.
And that exponential effect, I think, is where we go for there's no science to this, it's just guesswork, but it helps to sort of understand the interdependencies and complexities that are a part of this that just happen naturally in the field, in the flow, in whatever it is that you're calling it, right? Whatever works for you.
Yeah.
And I think that works too with people. So I'm going to get biblical for a second because it's popped into my mind, but wasn't it Jesus who said, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name? And I like that he used 2 or 3. It might be 2 or more. If I'm quoting that wrong, fine. But what I wanted to show you is getting beyond the 2, right? So it's fine for the 2 of us to be here and interacting and doing our thing and stuff like that. But we had the third one, and all of a sudden it gets, the effect is not multiplied; it's exponentialized.
It's like going from 2-dimensional reality to 3-dimensional reality.
Right. Right. Exactly. And since this is all about consciousness, that's a neat trick. And I don't know if it's true because how do you measure that stuff? But
there is something to it because I felt it, and I had some performances. Again, grateful that I was able to have them this year with a friend, and we had a duo, and the duo was great. And he's a musician I played with for over a decade, and that connection is incredible. But what I experienced with these other musicians was different, and it did feel just overwhelmingly powerful because of the 2 cubed effect or whatever is happening mathematically going on,
How do you, and I'm asking this because I'm curious, do you consciously make the jump? I mean, do you know when it's kicked in?
The feeling?
If you like used a substance to get you there?
Okay. It's usually not until after, like I'm so in it. You are so present that you aren't thinking, am I high right now? It's definitely, I actually had a moment of panic at the party where I was like, oh crap, I am wasted right now. I got to drive home. And I'm like, I haven't drinking. I didn't have anything to drink. I have no substances in me. Why? I actually tricked myself because I felt so high.
That's the follow-up question, because you realize that you have control, right? At some point, you can sort of turn it off and recover your 3D senses. Yeah,
I can drive home and no problem because I can tap back into that. Yeah. But then, like you said, I clearly we all have this ability to tap into all the states of consciousness that we try to achieve through all the different psychedelics and any other chemical substance for that matter. And it's not to say that those don't have a place. They clearly do. They come from this earth and they're there for a reason. But also it shows that we can get there ourselves. We are that vessel that can take us into these other altered states of consciousness. But how can, in this day and age, we're just so conditioned into so many different ways of thinking that we are working against a lot of programming. And I think because of that programming, it helps to have different tools to get you into those states of consciousness. I know I need help from different tools to get into different states of consciousness. If I'm out camping for a week and I haven't been around my phone and I'm away from all civilization, it's a lot easier for me to just kind of tap in whenever I want to because I'm not so immersed in our distracting materialistic culture, for better or for worse.
Yep. And,
so I find I can get into it quicker when I'm really more into nature in those states of consciousness. But yeah, what a profound compound effect it has when you're playing with multiple people. And I was thinking too, like this is a question I had for the audience and for you, Bill, which is, can you access this similar state of altered state of consciousness, this blissful, connected, incredibly unified feeling that you do get on psychedelics when you feel, this idea of a separation is absolutely an illusion. Everything is connected, and you feel that when you're on these substances or in a deep state of connection. Can you get there without substances through different means? And what I mean by that is music the only vehicle, or can you do it, of course, through dance, through other art forms like visual art? But then I even ask beyond that. Let's say you're a computer programmer, and that is your art form. You just love the idea of the binary world of computers and that language of coding and just everything it can create. Can you be with a group of your own peers in the computer programming world that are like maybe really, really creative in their own aspects, and then you're at a party with a bunch of computer programmers and you're all talking about your favorite things and expressing and showing some of your maybe latest projects and stuff? And in that setting, could you, in a sense, attain a similar state of connected, cohesive, higher consciousness when you're among your peers and feeling completely not only validated, but allowing to fully express yourself in that passion of yours? I don't know, right?
Yeah, I've never been in that environment, but I know people who are that gifted. And I'm guessing that if your gift is in anything, whatever your modality is, and I have one I'm going to suggest in a second, but I think if you are able to be in that way, then yes, like all of the gaming stuff that's going on right now, team games. My alma mater, UCI, is doing a bunch of gaming stuff. They actually have a program now. It's an actual, sporting event kind of program at UCI, gaming. And I think gamers are in that place where they're that connected that they can cooperate almost, what would you call it? Like they are able to have some sort of extrasensory connection that allows them to unify around a purpose that way.
Yeah.
And the way that they do that is often an art. I'm thinking of martial arts, and we don't have many group martial arts things anymore, but you watch the movies, right? And the one I wanted to mention that I do have some experience with is having talked to a lot of combat veterans. There's a sense in combat when the unit is doing what it does of being in that place, being sort of separate from the real world, so to speak, to be able to do what you do effectively. And that comes from a lot of training, practice, obviously. So in that case, they've practiced the moves, but when they get into actual combat, is when all of the practice goes out the window and you're instinctive about it. And you move as a unit and work as a unit in ways that you can't really describe. But musicians would call it playing together. I think. So this is another interesting thing too, because I've had the great privilege of leading drum circles for homeless people. And I did the way that your DJ was talking about. So we'd have a track, right? An hour's worth of songs that's organized in a particular way. Just press play, everyone picks up a drum and goes for it. And I've seen people who have no musical aptitude literally walk off the street and become connected at whatever level of talent they have, right? It's not hard to bang a drum. But for some people, that's intimidating. But still, so that effect happens. And it happens different degrees. I mean, not everybody that comes in has the effect of being, high. But Chris, I think that as musicians, we've practiced that for a long time. So we go deeper, than the average Joe. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen for the average Joe.
Exactly.
Right? They still have that moment. And, when the music stops, everybody kind of looks around like, so what's next? We did all this stuff together. Now what? And even as I'm thinking about this, the crazy sing-along that I lead, once a month, it's just public sing-along, right? It's always weird when it's over because it's like, we want to keep doing this. It's a blast, but what do we do now, right? What's the next thing that's going to happen? So there's been an effect of connection, and it's an effect of a connection that people are not ready to break. Right? You don't want to go home after it's done. And, I suspect also because of my experience with volunteering for veterans that when your unit is done and you leave military service, that very special connection that you've had sometimes for years with the men and women that you've worked with that closely, like in a band, if the band were to break up, it's visceral. You feel it. I mean, it's like your way in and now it's gone and you have to find another way in. And And it's such a beautiful thing when you're in the way, right? When you're doing the work, when you're at that moment where you know you're high, but you're completely sober, right? And maybe the great opportunity or invitation of our lives is for each of us to find whatever that is.
Find your band.
Follow your bliss or something.
You know?
Yeah, form of it, whatever
that is.
Do the thing, because once you've done that, you can't go back.
Absolutely. And what's that war? There's a war show, Band of Brothers, I think.
Yeah.
Band of Brothers. I mean, that's for an army, but of course it applies for music. And the analogy is pretty appropriate, I would say. It's you know that I guess this word, I'm just discovering its more meanings to the word band now. But you band together with people that you connect with, right? And
yeah,
I think everyone, I miss my reggae band back in Toronto so much because they were family, and I've been playing off and on with them for over a decade, and oh my God, just talking about it now, I'm just like, oh my God, like I miss, it's like family, it's like soul family that I genuinely miss, and miss specifically in the context of what we all love to do, which is perform music for others. And I can absolutely appreciate from a different experience with music for the veterans coming out of years and years of service and having that deep connection with their platoon or their squad or whatever, and then to not have that and to have to find other ways. And you can, of course, there's great ways. Sports teams are another really great way to make kind of that like bond through the same group of people you see every week and play that sport. And if it's a competitive league too, then you can really get into it. And I find that very helpful. I do love that kind of camaraderie that you can find through sports. But I can really appreciate that. Once you've experienced it once, you really understand the value and the importance of it. So you hopefully can find it again and again, because it's important. I was reminded how important that was just recently.
And unlike an addiction, which is harmful, there's no harm in this one.
No.
This is something you can chase without, there's a little bit of stigma getting over your bad self before you jump in and play drum for the first time, in a drum circle. And that's normal. We all get that. I mean, I'd have that same feeling when I'm playing with a new band for the first time. It's like, oh my gosh, can these guys actually play? Right. So you have that sense of angst. Normal, no worries, go with it. It helps the butterflies, fly in formation. But
it's a good sign that you're doing something new and exciting, actually.
Right. And do that. And yeah, it's challenging. And oh my gosh, I mean, the last thing you want to do if you're traumatized beyond belief or depressed beyond belief or whatever is to connect with somebody else around something you've never done before. That's impossible. And yet, I've watched it happen, you guys. I mean, Guitars for Vets was amazing. You hand a guitar to a veteran. If they couldn't play anything, with the moment that they learned to play a clean note, it was like the lights came on.
You can see it, right? I love that.
You just see it. They just light up. And somebody who's seasoned, like this one guy who's in the band, a band leader, who can play like probably all of Dylan's book by memory. He's like that, right? Just this repository of music. Handed him a guitar. He played for 2 hours without stopping, playing and singing. And it just changed his world that day.
Oh, that's amazing.
Hadn't had a guitar in years. So, get over it. And then whatever it is that can light you up that way, right? And okay, if that's a plant substance, if it's plant medicine and you need that, I understand ibogaine is like ayahuasca on steroids. Dude, if you need that, do that, because whatever it takes to get you back in connection, the world needs you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it needs you connected. It doesn't need you isolated by yourself. We don't like that. That's where we're tribal people.
We are. We survive best and thrive best through community, and through it's not that, we can't and don't benefit from some alone time and independence. We need that too. It's about balance, of course. And being okay on your own is really important, and being okay with being around yourself. I think a lot of people, because of the pandemic, forced them to spend a lot of time with themselves, and because they hadn't faced themselves, because we are very, very good and also very encouraging of distracting ourselves from the things that really matter. And so it's very easy to do if you're very, very busy with your career and then family and then Netflix, and then, basically you got no time to go inward and access any aspects of yourself. So therefore you don't have to deal with yourself. And then all of a sudden, the world comes crashing to a halt and you're forced to deal with yourself and deal with those shadow areas or those difficult aspects of who you are. And that's good. We need that time. And a lot of the time it's good to do that in solitude and to have your own space for that. But that is not how we thrive on a long-term level. And we need people. We need connection. We need community. Now more than ever, actually, I would argue.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's kind of, that's also one of my goals right now with the concerts I want to be putting on this year that are online, is to connect people through my shows. I remember, the beautiful thing about playing live in person was that everyone comes to the venue and then they all get to mingle and meet each other afterwards. I've had so many wonderful friendships outside of my own be formed at my concerts because people just meet, and they meet through their love and passion of music. And so I want to be doing more of that, intentionally online. People can still connect through Zoom and connect on the chats and try to do the next best thing that we can do in these times to continue to connect and not have to lose that aspect of our humanity, even though we're in certain regards unable to do a lot of things right now. It doesn't mean we still can't connect and thank God have some technology to lean on to do so. And it's certainly better than nothing. And I've had some amazing connection calls on Zoom. And honestly, when we chat, Bill, on this podcast or before and after the podcast, I always leave very, very energized, excited, uplifted. So I do encourage our audience to, if you're not able to access all the things that we've just been talking about, if you can't access them in person, that's okay. It's still better than nothing to try accessing this stuff online. And there's lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff available, no matter what your opinion or situation is on COVID and everything going on. The thing we can probably all agree on is that it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. And I think we got to get used to this online world, and that's okay. It's like embrace the change rather than fighting the change. And there's really good aspects to it that we can embrace, one of them being instant connection with anyone around the world. And what you're connecting on are your like-minded interests, your passions, things that you care about. And I've been finding over the last 2 years that, geez Louise, Bill, that's how we met. That's how this whole podcast came into creation.
That's right.
Was because of Zoom, technology, people meeting online, connecting online. It's actually really great. So that I would totally encourage our audience, like everything we've been talking about, you can absolutely access this stuff as well online in so many different modalities. And community, just community connection. That's so important.
So important. If you've got a chance to watch a live stream concert, those are really powerful in ways that recordings aren't. But that doesn't mean recordings are bad.
Just different.
The live stream helps engage you a little bit more fully in what you're doing. And the trick, I think, Chris, is that the more we are engaged in the thing, whatever it is, let's say music, the better the opportunity we have for that connection, that high, that other world experience.
Mm-hmm.
Music in the background, that's nice, but it isn't getting you anywhere because you're not focused. But if you pull it in on sitting down and listening to an album, remember we used to do that? People used to do that, right?
Yeah.
Or attending a concert. There's not much else going on at a concert except the concert.
Yeah.
And that's really great because it totally engages you.
Mm-hmm.
So the more engagement you bring to it, with some practice, you can get to this place where, like Chris and I do when we're playing in the band or whatever, we just reach this level of connectedness that's possible for anybody. I think human beings have this ability,
Yeah.
I suspect that animals do too. It just seems different for them. Because when you are connected that way, you feel like everything, like the trees, whatever. You're in the forest and you're in solitude, but you're surrounded by, all of the things to which you're connected. And they're connected to you. And it's like, whoa, and this whole thing is just happening in total silence sometimes, the sound of the wind or whatever. But yet you've practiced the moment, right?
Mm.
So you can go there. And that's the key.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place to be.
And
because
hey, while mushrooms are illegal in a lot of places, this is not.
Music is always going to be very accessible. It's something we've had since humans have existed, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I think it's because it's one of the best or quickest or most effective ways to do so many different things: heal, connect, alter states of consciousness,
Touch the face of God.
Touch the face of God, experience like the energy of the universe, like literal creation energy. Unite people that otherwise would be divided on all materialistic sort of fronts, and you get great artists like, I don't know, Bob Marley as an example, maybe, where you're going to get every walk of life imaginable at his concerts, or Michael Jackson, or just these people that the Beatles, whatever it is, right? That cross-generational, racial, national, religious, whatever category we put ourselves in as a way of dividing ourselves, it gets stripped down with music and with other beautiful art, of course, too. But music in particular, because it's universal, because music is a piano, a violin's a violin, the voice is the voice. And especially if you're doing even non-lyrical music, I mean, it's quite literally like, it's universal. Everyone can experience that music in their own way, and it's perfect in that way. So, yeah, it's important stuff. Is the moral of the story? I think
it's important stuff. It's essential stuff.
It is.
I mean, it's what keeps Chris and I going.
Yep, it's my form of therapy.
Right.
Or not that T word. It's my form of enlightenment. Uplifting.
Yeah. Fuel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard to get all, to not be new agey on this stuff and to sound like we're talking in like spiritual terms, but it's really hard to describe this experience in physical language.
Yeah. Science hasn't got there yet in terms of what that actually is. What's really going on. I mean, Oliver Sacks does a decent job with musicophilia.
Yeah.
For those listening, check out Oliver Sacks. Really great neuroscience on music and of course the brain, but it's just scratching the surface. It's only really looking into some very specific phenomenon, and it's nowhere near, like, we have no clue really what's going on with the human soul, body, mind, emotions with music, and that's why it's so cool. It's still magical in that way, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
I know the world of philosophy has been very constrained by science recently. In the last, since the Enlightenment, for example. And music will probably be constrained at some point too, but they're still measuring the effects rather than the cause.
Yes.
And I have great respect for that, because it helps understand where the cause might be.
Mm-hmm.
But when flipping plants can make music, tell me about the level of consciousness that's in a plant. Show me where the brain is that we're going to measure. You know what I'm saying? It's like, let's forget about the cause for a minute and just let that be magical. And find decent ways, spend our energy finding decent ways to get to the cause. Right? Whatever that is. If it's drugs, cool. If it's religion, cool. If it's politics, whatever it is, for you, it's cool. If that takes you to the source and you get that feeling that Chris and I have been talking about right now, I don't care how you got there, right?
Yeah, as long as you're not
there. Meet me there.
And we'll see you there. As long as you're not hurting yourself or others, like, get there any way you can. And you won't regret it. It's a place too, like, it's a feeling and an experience that you take back into your everyday life, and it improves your everyday life because you have a newfound of presence and joy, and I just find, especially these days, like, I'm just laughing a lot of the time for no reason whatsoever.
How true that is,
right? I'm just chuckling at life. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm laughing right now, but I can't stop smiling.
They say that laughter is a spiritual tool, right? So
that's why the Buddha, and you've talked about this too, Bill, right? The Dalai Lama, and you sent me a video of him laughing, like, just on repeat, basically. It's so true. It's so true.
I'm a great fan of humorous music. And I've oftentimes wanted to be able to be in communication with somebody who does that for a living, like Tom Lehrer, who I think he's no longer with us, or Victor Borg, remember him?
Yeah, he's great.
But this goes way back. I mean, people using music and humor together for a long, long time, sometimes for satire or whatever. But it's so great to combine those two powerful things together, because laughter is one of those ways that you can get high.
Oh, yeah. Laughter is amazing. If you're with a good friend that makes you laugh, that is the drug right there. It's just getting to rib-splitting laughter.
Exactly. And we often find ourselves, you and I both do this with spiritual music. It's like so it's like
Serious.
constrained, right? It's so serious, right? And all you want to do is go na 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 na, right?
Yeah,
At some
exactly.
point, and just watch the room explode. And if you set it up right, of course, that's possible. But without offending anybody who's into their spiritual music, please don't. I don't mean to offend you here, but if the idea is to bring you to that place, find the best tools. And if science has to inform your choice, then let science inform your choice. But why not just listen to what your heart is doing? You know, we all love to laugh. I have yet to meet someone who really doesn't like laughter.
Right.
You know, it's been 60 years and I'm counting, but right. And that's a whole lot more basic than even musical genres. Right? I can offend people by playing, you know, the Beatles in a classical room. And I'll do that if there's going to be an effect for it that I want.
Yeah, so that sounds awesome, by the way. Oh my God, I'd listen to that.
Right. So, but I'm also sensitive. So whatever your way in, if it's music, you know, hey, if it's metal, go for it, man. Metal people are some of the happiest people I think I've ever met.
I know.
Right. And if it's classical, go for that. I mean, if you're so locked up that Bach is your thing, and here I'm being judgmental, dude, I'm so sorry, because Oliver Sacks loved Bach more than Beethoven.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I can't judge him, dude. That's his thing. So whatever your way is, you know, if it's ayahuasca, go for it, whatever, but get to that place because we need you there. Right.
The world needs you there.
The world needs you there. And hey, maybe we'll see you and have a chance to play music or laugh together, or band together.
Band together.
With whatever it takes, right?
I love it. Well, I know you'll be having some concerts that our listeners can stay tuned to at some point in the future, Bill. And
looking forward.
You know, those listening will definitely be putting more information of our concerts and things coming up. I've got some coming up soon as well. But when we have the links, you know, you can always, in the description of our podcast, you can access, you know, our websites, and that's going to have all the information there. So that's all you need to do is just hop on those links and check us out, because I know for both of us, we really want to get really good healing vibes, good vibrations out to the world, really. And that's what music's all about. And it's the participation from everyone else, from those of you listening, you know, that creates the full experience. It's a cyclical experience. You know, we put the music out there, but if it's not received, it's not really a performance or an experience. It's me playing back in my home, which I do all the time, and that's great. But I also love to share and have those symbiosis, those amazing experiences where we all grow and expand, you know, together.
Yeah. Because we get the same effect on stage that you guys get in the audience.
Oh man, do you ever? And that's a drug right there too.
Yeah,
that performance high. Whew.
So much of that, and it's available to everybody. We don't have any lock on this. Anybody can do it, right?
Absolutely. Some people, you feel that when you go to a karaoke bar and just put a microphone in front of your face, you know?
That's a laugh in right there.
Oh, I love karaoke for a good laugh. Oh man, it's the best.
Oh man, and there are some talented people out there.
Oh yeah.
You know, but there are some people who are like me doing karaoke is a hoot. And it's not because I'm funny, it's because I'm terrible.
And I love karaoke for that, because I encourage everyone who thinks they're not a good singer, I'm like, then go do karaoke.
Yeah, you want to get schooled.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's so fun to be bad, you know?
And the high is so great. I mean, you really do have that opportunity, like right there. Or ecstatic dance, you mentioned that. I did some of that back in the day. And what an amazing thing it is to dance for like 5 hours without stopping.
I know.
So we're giving plenty of, go for it, people. You've got this.
You got this. You guys. We'll see you on the other side of bliss and limitless expansion and connection with the universe.
Yes, and it feels really good.
Yes, in case you haven't heard us say this a billion times already now, it is amazing.
Hey, thanks for sharing your story. I realize that this stuff is very personal, and I really do want to honor that, because everybody's experience of connection is different. But when it happens, it's just so beautiful, man. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Offering that one up.
My pleasure. And I hope the listeners listening can get some inspiration and know that they can access it in so many different ways, and just to look into what you have going on in your life and what's easy and accessible and feels fun and easy. Fun and easy, very important emotions. If it feels arduous and really, really difficult to put together, it's not simple and easy, you know. Just literally throw on YouTube on your own computer and literally type in your favorite song / karaoke.
Yeah.
Start singing.
Remember that big red button that Staples or somebody had that says that was easy? You'd mash it. I don't know if it made a sound or did something. I think it said that was easy or something. Picture yourself with one of those. Like that's your in right there.
There it is.
You want connectedness? Mash the button. Right? And whatever that does for you, however it makes it happen, is your way. And do that.
I love it. It's easy, simple, and blissful, and it's good.
And it's good, really good.
Really
good, dude. Thank you for listening in on our conversation and for taking time to show your appreciation with a like, share, or subscribe. Discussions of Music, Healing, and Consciousness is a practice of spontaneity, and we welcome your comments, ideas, and questions. There are ways to connect with us in the show notes, so let us hear from you. Until next time, this is Bill Protzmann along with Chris Noble wishing you great musical health. Samara Huchaya.